Get access to exclusive tutorials and take your paracord weaving to the next level by supporting this channel on Patreon. Hey, what's going on guys? Tim here again. In today's tutorial, we're learning how to make the hardcore Conquistador Paracord Bracelet. This is a design from Pavel Makarin of Cetus 550. It's an awesome one. So that being said, let's get into the tutorial. So to start this one out, we are doing it on a buckle setup, 4-strand core, double cow's hitch. Remember, if you don't know how to do this setup, link is in the description box down below. We're going to start by integrating our accent color for this one, and I've got it on a fid, and I'm just passing it through the two top cow's hitches with my fid like that. So get the paracord through like so, and you want to get equal amounts of paracord on both sides. So now to start weaving, we're going to start with the licorice strand on the right. We're going to take that cord and you're going to pass it around the core strand on the right. So go behind and in front like so, doing kind of like a simple overhand knot like so. And there we go, that's the first strand. Now we're going to make our way from the right to the left, and we're going to work with the gray strand on the right. We're going to do the same knot, but you're going to go underneath that licorice cord and then underneath the second core, second from the right core strand, like so. So go under both, pull the cord to the left side, and now go under that gray cord you were working with. So you're tying the exact same simple kind of overhand loop, but it's also looping around that first cord. Now for the third cord, you're going to do the same thing. Go under through that loop from the front and underneath the second core strand, and make that same loop and go under the cord you were working with. So it's simply just a bunch of interconnected overhand loops. Now for the fourth strand, again, you're going to repeat that same process. Kind of bring it over to the right side, go through that loop that's next to it, underneath the core strand, bring all the paracord through, and now go underneath that first cord you were working with, like so. So when you have that set up, you can cinch everything together. Make sure you maintain consistent tension on those knots to make everything look the same. Alright, so we went from the right to the left on the first pass. Now we're going to go from the left to the right. So on the very leftmost cord, you're going to bring it underneath the first core strand, and now do that overhand loop to the left side. Now working with the second cord, that's the gray cord on the left, go through that loop, underneath the second core strand, bring it to the right, and pass that underneath the gray strand you were working with. Moving on to the third strand from the left, second gray cord on the right. Again, now pass that through the gray loop. Go underneath that and go underneath the third core strand. Bring that to the right. Pass it underneath that strand you were working with. And now making our way to the last strand, the fourth strand. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Pass it through the gray loop, go underneath the core strand, bring it out to the right, and bring that working end back underneath. So as you can see, it's actually a very simple pattern. After you do those passes, again, pull up on those strands and keep consistent tension on each of those knots. Try to keep them as even as possible. So we've done 2 passes now, and you're just going to continue that process as you work your way down your bracelet. So just make sure you do the same pattern, alternating from right to left and then left to right, and work your way down your bracelet core. This is definitely one of those bracelets that requires you to put an even amount of tension on each of the knots. I know I'm stressing that a lot, but you want to make sure you do that because you don't want your bracelet pattern to look inconsistent, and took me a bit of practicing to get the tension just right for this. But you'll know, because as you progress down your bracelet, you'll notice how even those knots are, and you definitely want to keep them as even as possible to make a nice looking hardcore conquistador. We're coming down to the end of our bracelet, and I have a couple more passes I can do. Now, as you'll notice, I did melt the ends of my paracord rather than, take fids on and off each strand. Instead of using fids, you can always just slightly melt the ends of your paracord so that they become stiff, and you can also almost use the paracord itself like a fid. So that's definitely something you can do to save yourself time instead of taking fids on and off. Just be very careful when you're melting the cord, of course. The paracord does get very hot once it's melted. It's like molten plastic, and you definitely do not want to burn yourself. A lot of what I've been doing, as you can see, is grabbing all 4 strands at the end of tying a knot, or a pass of knots, and just yanking upwards on them. So there's enough space now for one last set of knots, and how I'm going to finish this one is very simple. So the strand on the right, I'm going to just pass it through in between the 2 core strands on the right. The grays go in the middle, so in between those 2 4 core strands, and the last cord goes in between the first and second core strands. So I think that's a nice finish, very simple, and makes the knots end nicely. And from there, of course, I'm just going to snip and melt my excess cords. I'm going to torch them with my jet lighter, and as always, I'm going to press down on it with my knotter's tool, just using that knurled section because I like to give those melted ends a bit of texture. I feel like it matches the texture of the paracord a lot better than just a simple smooth melt, but that's entirely up to you. You can do whatever you wish. And remember, guys, I do run a Patreon page to support this channel. A huge thank you to all my Patreon supporters. If you guys want access to exclusive tutorials, take your paracord weaving to the next level, feel free to check out the links in the video as well as down below. This has been the Hardcore Conquistador. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next video.